All right. So then you sold stuff off, and you became a minimalist, it sounds like, and took off to Albania. Um, and you were there for 2 years. So what happened? Explain what Albania is like and what you really loved about it and why you decided to leave.
So when I got to Albania, um, I this little town, I as I said, I loved the lake. I always wanted to live on water, and it really made me happy, and it was filled a huge need that I had in moving abroad was to be someplace really that I loved looking at and being in. So there that's something I loved about that place. I was a little unprepared.
Can I ask you a quick favor? Adventure Freaks is growing, but over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. If you love tips on affordable living and retiring abroad, hit that subscribe button. It's free and it really helps us grow. All right, so today we're heading over to the beautiful country of France, with my new friend, Karen. Karen, is it Espig? Karen?
Yeah, Espig, just like it's spelled.
Yeah, it's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for taking part in the podcast.
Pleasure to meet you too. Thank you.
Yeah, so you and I connected a couple weeks ago, and you've had a very, very interesting journey. And so
Mhm.
we're going to dive into that because I think that the viewers are going to love this. You actually moved to Albania first, lived there for a couple years, and now you're living in France. And so we're going to dive into the cost of living in France, where you live. But let's first, Karen, start out with who you are, where you're from, and why you left your country of origin to live abroad.
Sure. I'm from Ottawa, Canada. Spent most of my life in Ottawa. Used to work for the Canadian federal government in a variety of administrative roles. During the pandemic, I decided I wanted to pursue art more than having a 9 to 5 job because I was also doing that sort of on the side. After work, I'd be in my studio painting. So I was trying to, find a way to do that. How can I do more art and work less? And then I was listening to podcasts about moving abroad. And anyway, flash forward, I decided to retire early and move abroad. So I decided on Albania simply because of the low cost of living. It looked beautiful. I found a contact there to help me with I set up a self-employment resident permit. So that organization helped me. So it was just kind of going to be trouble-free because with
Yeah.
everything else you have to do when you're going to leave your country and get rid of all of your stuff and everything involved in that. I wanted to make it as easy as possible because I kind of didn't know what I was doing. It's also part of the equation. So that's sort of how I ended up leaving my country of origin. Yeah.
Okay. So it came down to you wanting to become an artist, and you
Yeah,
were listening. Mhm.
I wanted a flexible schedule, and I always wanted to live in Europe, travel in Europe, and I just never did. So I
Okay.
just
So you identified Albania. It is affordable and it's right in a really nice part of Europe where you're right across from Italy. You're next door to Greece, so it's a really nice area. Um, when you said you set up some kind of a business to live there. So in as an American from the United States, you can stay there for a year without any kind of visa. It's not the same in Canada.
no, just you guys.
Just us. Okay, so you had to obtain in Canada
Mhm,
a
mhm.
special visa, and what was it? called?
Yeah, so well, I think the type of visas that are now available in Albania has changed to my understanding. At the
Okay.
time I was looking to go over, they were hadn't ch added sort of new visas. So
Okay.
the best way for me to get in was through self-employment, like as an artist. I was just
Okay.
going as an artist. I didn't have to prove that I had a gallery or I just had to register. I had to pay extra taxes because I was running a business. So I paid social taxes
Hmm.
as a result of that.
Okay.
Um, so that's why. But I believe that there's a number of different visas or resident permits now available in Albania.
Not sure which country is the best fit for your move abroad? The Ideal Destination Finder takes the guesswork out of the process. It's a customized 22-question assessment that reveals your top 3 destinations based on your lifestyle, priorities, and budget. Instead of spending months researching and second-guessing, you'll get a clear, personalized shortlist to guide your next step abroad. And it could save you thousands by avoiding the wrong move. You can get started now at adventurefreaks.com. Just scroll down a little bit and you'll see the Ideal Destination Finder on the left. Just click it and start the assessment. I also put the link in the description, or you can click the QR code above. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, so this particular permit that you applied for didn't require you to prove a certain amount of income or anything?
No, I
Okay.
had to do the, criminal record check. I had to, that might have been it.
Yeah.
I remember it was a while ago.
And
Yeah,
what
no, I didn't
part,
have to prove income.
okay, and what part of Albania did you stay in?
For the most part, I was in a small town called Pogradec, which is
Okay.
there's a very large lake between Albania and North Macedonia, and that's where I headed. In retrospect, it may not have been the best choice, but it was that lake is magic. Still, anytime I see pictures of it, I still think it's magic. But
Yeah.
living in a small town had its challenges. And then the last 2 months, I lived in Vlora on the seaside.
So when you first moved there, I'm just curious, that's an area that's pretty much off the radar in Albania. How much were rentals out there?
So my first one, wasn't a full apartment. It was sort of the lower part of a shared house with the family.
Yeah.
As I recall, I paid 200 US.
Okay. Wow.
Then yeah, but it wasn't very comfortable living with another family all the time.
Yeah.
So I spent a year there, and then I moved to an apartment in a building, and that was 320 US a month,
Okay.
uh, all in.
Okay. That was it a nice sized apartment
It
or
was phenomenal. It was a huge 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, wraparound balcony. It was just a glorious apartment.
I was going to say for 320 in a place that's out in the middle of Albania somewhere, it's got to be pretty large. So
Yes.
that's awesome. Okay. All right. And so Karen, for the viewers watching, they all think about, you know, I'd love to be like Karen. This is what I want to do. They're not sure where to start. They don't know how to do it. And clearly, you have to have some form of income to be able to do it. How do you
Mhm.
do that? Are you on some kind of retirement pension?
Yes. Yeah.
You,
I worked for over 20 years for the Canadian federal government, so I paid into a pension every year, and we have the option to retire early. You just get a lesser amount
okay.
for they call it a penalty, but essentially you're paid less because you're leaving earlier than 60 or 65. I think I was 54 when I
Okay.
left. So that's my income, which is quite modest. So it was even in Albania was tight with the traveling I did and living the way I wanted. So
Hmm. And then, okay, so you had that set up. You got the early retirement.
mhm.
Then did you downsize? Did you sell off, or do you still have a place back in Canada, or did you get rid of pretty much everything?
I got rid of pretty much everything. I had just a apartment, 2 bedroom apartment that I rented. So I got rid of all the furniture, all the stuff, with the exception of all of my paintings, a lot of art books, and a few, all my photo albums, that kind of thing. I did had a storage unit that I paid for, which I only recently closed. So I was back in
Okay.
Canada in April of this year, and with the decision that, okay, this is it. I can't keep, because it's expensive as well. So I'm like, I can't keep maintaining this. I'm abroad now. I'm not going to live in Canada again, so I need to solve this. So
Hmm.
I got rid of more stuff from the storage unit. I brought a lot of those paintings back with me on that trip. And then I have a friend that happily offered to store the rest of it. So in future trips, I'll bring what's left back with me.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Great information. All right. So then you sold stuff off, and you became a minimalist, it sounds like, and took off to Albania. Um, and you were there for 2 years. So what happened? Explain what Albania is like and what you really loved about it and why you decided to leave.
So when I got to Albania, um, I this little town, I as I said, I loved the lake. I have always wanted to live on water, and it really made me happy. And it was filled a huge need that I had in moving abroad, was to be someplace really that I loved looking at and being in. So there that's something I loved about that place. I was a little unprepared for the loneliness aspect of living in a small town, but even that, I was okay for quite a while. Um, being I managed to, I made connections with other expats in other cities, and I traveled a lot, and I did was kind of into connecting, but it was still difficult.
Hmm.
So then ultimately, I would say it was that real profound lack of real connection that
Hmm.
made me decide I needed to leave. There were other things too. I had concerns about the health system. I didn't feel medically safe there. The
Okay.
medical culture is not what it is in other places in the world. So that was part of it as well.
That's interesting that you went from Albania that you don't feel the healthcare is at a level that you'd like it to be. And then you moved to France, which is known to have probably some of the best healthcare in the entire world.
Yeah, it has its challenges also, but yes. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think more so, like, if you look at, so I wasn't in Tirana. In Tirana, I think expats have a very different experience, and there is much more medical services options available, that kind of thing. And I did touch on some of those medical services a couple of times.
Hmm.
What 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 I really felt though is they didn't have the culture of care, and that made me uncomfortable. They had all the machines, they had doctors from around the world
Yeah.
working, but they didn't. It's the patient care and the really the like when something happened, you didn't have the feeling they really were concerned that you got better. Um,
Okay.
and that made that to me is almost as important as the state of the art machines and the medications. Is if you don't have the care,
Yeah.
I don't, it doesn't work, not for me anyway. So that's sort of my concern about the medical
Did you
community.
have an episode in Albania where you had to go get some healthcare services and
Not urgent care.
okay.
I did have one time I had a bad reaction to an antibiotic, and I was by myself and in the small town, and that really scared me.
Yeah.
Um, and I was alone. So that kind of, and that was around when I was thinking about leaving too. So I think that probably kind of really shone a big light on it. Like, okay, you're by yourself here. How do you communicate an emergency when you don't speak? I mean, I spoke bits of the language, but certainly not enough to explain a medical situation.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, and it sounds to me like you were trying to really figure out a way to stay in Albania because you left this, pronounce that lake town again,
Pogradets.
Pogradec. So you left Pogradec for Vlora.
Yeah.
How
I
long
knew
did,
I was I knew I was leaving. That was sort of on my way out. I went to Vlora because it was
okay,
easier to get to the airport from Vlora, and I was moving with suitcases. So I was moving by plane to France. So I had a couple of good friends in Vlora.
I
So
see.
they actually lent me their apartment, which was lovely. And then I got to spend some time with friends in my last couple months. And Vlora is a nice city. I like it there.
When you got to Vlora, did you say, "Huh, maybe I should stay. This is quite a little town."
No, I said, I did say, had I started here, I would have had a different experience.
Yeah.
But there were still, and in retrospect, I absolutely should have. It was good for me to leave. So
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. So, all right, then you leave Albania and head to France. So now you have another big decision. There's a lot
mhm,
of beautiful towns in France, and you have
mhm.
to identify, you got to be outside of the larger cities to find places that are really affordable.
Yeah.
So is France as affordable as Albania was?
Um, so rents are higher.
Okay.
So the housing part of the equation is definitely quite a bit higher than Albania.
Okay.
However, food can be less depending how you eat, because less is imported.
Hmm.
In Albania, just a can of spaghetti sauce is coming from Italy, or so it's kind of a strange price. Whereas you can get a kilo of cherries for €1, but you're spending €3 on a little bottle of tomato sauce.
Hmm.
So some of the basics in Albania are more,
Hmm.
um, outside of the stuff that's just grown in Albania. Whereas in Europe, of course, it's the EU. So even if it's coming from Spain or Italy or Germany, there's no extra fees on things. So the pricing is better for everyday items.
All right. So then you had to identify, how did you do the research to identify where you wanted to live in France and then share with people what city you chose?
So similar to Albania, had really no kind of idea about where, I had sort of just a vague idea that I wanted nice weather. What I noticed in Albania as well, coming from Canada, coming from Ottawa, where the winters are very long and very gray and difficult. I really came to love that there was greenery all year round in
Hmm.
Albania, even in the so cold part of February when it's 5 degrees. There's plants, there's cacti, there's,
Hmm.
it's alive. Whereas what I realized in Canada, every year you go through this period where it all dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look at the dead plants for 6 months, and then spring comes, which is glorious, but it's long. And I really discovered I loved that and I wanted that. So that sort of meant, okay, south of France, because I want to keep that nicer weather. So
Hmm.
I just basically came December. I moved in the June of 2024. In December of the previous year, I made I think it was 1 week, 1 week trip. I landed in Lyon. I went to Avignon. I went to Béziers. I went to Nîmes. A couple. Where else did I go? Cap d'Agde. A couple places in the southish area. And it
Hmm.
was kind of like, okay, check. Yes, I like it here. I feel comfortable. And actually, as soon as I got to Lyon, I just, okay, I like it here. I did. I liked it right away.
Hmm.
Um, and then I came back in April for a week. I booked an Airbnb for a week in Nîmes with the intention of getting some kind of apartment somewhere.
Hmm.
I had prearranged to meet a woman in Arles. And so on my second day, I think after arrival, I went and met her and signed on the dotted line and got an apartment. So it was, and how I found this apartment in Arles was through a site where you just pick several cities and you put in your parameters, and the landlords contact you.
Okay.
So I didn't, there's a lot, it isn't easy to rent in France. You'll see all
Hmm.
kinds of horror stories and stressful. And um, I didn't have to go through any of that process of, I love this apartment, I want this apartment, here's all my paperwork. And then to be told, no, we're not going to rent to you for,
Right.
for a random reason. So this particular site, it's so um, I think my mindset going in was, I'm just going to take what is offered to me that meets my minimums and not worry about getting the perfect place, getting, not worrying about too much about where it is. Do I want it to be my forever home? It was just, I needed a place to land that was good enough for a
Hmm.
year. And anyway, so I've been here a year and a bit now,
In Arles.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And okay, so what was the name of that website that you just put in or you select the cities and then the landlords call
I
you? Do you?
believe it's uh, LOC, so like location, LOC service, SERVICE. I'm not sure if there's an S or not, dot
Okay.
FR. I can
Well,
send you the link afterwards, but
yeah, that'd be
I think
great.
I paid a fee, which was, I think, 40 euros.
Okay.
Um, and I put in that I wanted a studio apartment. I put in a minimum square feet. I put in a note saying, because you say whether you're employed or I've said that I'm retired, but I put a note in the other part just saying I'm a Canadian woman emigrating from Canada. I put that I was a non-smoker, in case that was a bonus,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and just I got a number of offers that were really not suitable. They were either too far out of town or unfurnished. I needed a furnished apartment.
Sure.
So there was a couple that were potentials, and I went to this one, and um, she was happy to rent to me, so we did a lease on the spot.
Okay. All
So
right.
that was
Yeah.
a
Well, great. Send me that info, and I'll put that in the
Mhm.
description for people to use as a resource. So, did you put the amount of money that you were going to spend, the most amount that you could afford?
Yes,
Oh,
I believe
okay.
so.
Did you find it within that range?
Yeah. Mhm.
You did. So, what are you paying for a rental in Arles for?
So it's a studio of 25 square meters. It's about 250 square feet. I
Okay.
pay 500 euros
Okay.
plus hydro, plus water, plus insurance, plus internet.
Okay. So it includes?
No. So 500 is just the rent.
Okay.
And then there's a $15, I'm not sure what it is, fee per month that I pay at the end of the year, which is some kind of maintenance that I pay to the landlord.
Okay. So utilities are separate there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get places where they're included. I just wasn't the case here.
Okay. What are you seeing that you're paying per month, approximately averaging per month for gas, electric, water,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi?
Water's maybe about 20 euros. I do
Okay.
equal billing, so I'm not sure, might deviate a little from that. My electric also my monthly has changed, but let's say it's no more than 100 euros. I'm not
Okay.
sure per month. That's uh, I don't have air conditioning, and this
Okay.
is it's a very old apartment.
Hmm.
My internet's 40 euros a month. Um,
Okay.
and my home insurance is another 25 euros a month. and it's
Okay.
mandatory. You have to have home tenant insurance.
Okay. And it's how much per month?
The insurance,
Yeah,
25.
25. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's mandatory in France
Yes.
for home insurance. Okay, interesting. I did not know that. Um, what do you pay for a cell phone there?
My cell phone is 13 euros a month.
Okay. And Wi-Fi is not really that cheap. $40 is
Yeah, I mean there are cheaper plans, and initially I think I was paying 20 for like the first 3 months or something. That it shot up to 40, and now I can't get out of it. So maybe that was that you could shop around and probably do better.
hmm
But this is where I'm at right now. So
Yeah.
maybe I've done a year now, so I could start to look at it. But there was a bit of a glitch with this apartment when I tried to do internet because it's a heritage, like I'm in the old part of the city.
hmm
So when the guy came to install the fiber internet, he basically just he looked at me, he said, "No, I can't do it," and he left.
Okay.
Um, so then I had to get ADSL internet. So that took another couple of weeks to get a guy. So the thought of trying to go through that process again with another company is a little bit cringy at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. So then now you've been there for about a year. You're staying in a studio apartment. Are there larger places that you can get that are affordable in the area that you're staying in, or do they go up quite a bit?
I think I've got it. I think I'm at a fair price for where I am. I do think you can get cheaper or larger for the same price a little outside of the. I mean, Arles is a very small town, so even outside of the center, you're not far.
Okay.
Um, I'm pretty sure I could get something around the same price range and have more space or maybe a balcony or
hmm
but I'm in an amazing location, so sort of, yeah.
Okay. Well, describe the location. So it sounds like you're pretty much in the center where you can walk everywhere, but describe Arles, what it's like, the town itself, and what the surroundings like and what you see when you walk out your door.
When I walk out my door, when I look to the right, I see a 2,000-year-old Roman amphitheater. Uh,
Wow.
it's amazing. It's amazing. It,
Wow.
and it's a pedestrian zone. So even cars can come if you have a permit, they can scan and you can come maybe at certain hours of the day only. So it's really nice. There's not traffic.
hmm
It's the odd delivery truck early in the morning some days, and then the garbage collection and all that. But my biggest traffic is occasionally a busload of people will go by,
hmm
but it's nice, yeah.
Do
And
you,
there's a few restaurants around. Mostly it's residential. We're on my street. There's a
hmm
restaurant. I think the buildings are, I would say, at least 150 years old
hmm
to 200. I'm not sure. The streets it's been redone, but it's cobblestone sort of looking. So it's lovely. It's like living in a storybook. It
Yeah.
really,
Do you have like cafes nearby where you can go sit
yeah,
outside and
yeah.
watch people or and do they have like a market, an outdoor market?
So there's a number of cafes and restaurants that sort of surround the arena. And then there's other squares where there are collections of restaurants and cafes. There's a very large market on Saturdays. I think it's one of the largest and maybe one of the oldest in Provence. It's actually so big, I get stressed out if I go on the Saturday market. So there's also a Wednesday market, which is a much reduced, but still a very large size open air market. Everything, fruits and vegetables, cheeses, fish, as well as household goods, used clothing, everything. So
Yeah.
it's,
Wow. Sounds like you really picked an amazing place.
I really just got lucked into it because it was kind of arbitrary. And then you add to the fact the pedigree of Van Gogh here, and it's it's really beautiful.
Yeah, that's really terrific. I'm glad you found a place that you love, but there's nothing more awe-inspiring than to walk out and you see something that's thousands of years old right in front of
Mm.
your face.
Mhm.
It's like it's
Mhm.
so incredible to move and walk around the streets anywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
It really, really is, but especially when you're by these landmarks that are so spectacular. It's very cool.
And that's actually part of what was missing for me in Albania.
Okay.
I started to realize that when I was traveling to Europe from Albania, is
Hmm.
just the visual richness. When you go to Italy, when you go to France,
Yes.
Romania, like it just it didn't have that in Albania. And then I came also to learn that I really needed that and really wanted that, which was what made France such a good choice for me, strong contender, because I just walking around, I can feel happy looking at the really old buildings, even if they're falling apart, it makes me happy because they're really old and interesting
Yeah.
and stories to tell. And I love that. So.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. I spent before we were in Italy for 3 weeks. We ended up in Catania, which is
Mhm.
and it's such an interesting city. Has UNESCO World Heritage sites. It's got
Mhm.
an old castle, just incredible cathedral. I mean, just, the architecture is amazing. And I met a woman who's an expat there, and she agreed to be on the podcast to talk about cost of living and what it's like living in Catania. And she has an apartment across the street. You walk out on this beautiful balcony, and you know
Mhm.
how these balconies are with the tall shutters,
Mhm.
and she's got one of
Mhm.
those. And you
Yeah.
walk out onto this gorgeous balcony, and she's staring at the castle in Catania.
Mhm. Yeah. I
It's
know.
just absolutely
Yeah.
spectacular. And I go, "Do you know how many people?" And I go, "What are you paying a month to live in a place like that?" And it's like a two-bedroom apartment. She's paying
Mhm.
450.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like the fines are out there. And you
Mhm.
can, and especially artists, like for me, visually, I need to be somewhere that is inspiring, or I
Mhm.
can't be there. I need
Yeah.
to be around in a space, in an environment that just is inspiring to me. And that's
Yeah.
really important just for my psyche.
Yeah.
And so I'm always happy to hear these stories when you find those places. And it
Mhm.
sounds like this is a town just like that,
Yeah.
where you are right across the street from this amazing amphitheater.
And you find, like you said, you find these things in Europe sort of generally just because it's old. So you could go, you're going to the bank or the post office, and it just happens to be in a former, mansion. that
Yeah,
is so it's beautiful. It'll have exposed, ancient rocks, and it's just, but when you live here, it's just everyday life. It's the grocery store. It's it just
yeah,
happens to have a Roman wall that they've left.
yeah.
And I love these little surprises, everywhere you go.
Well, it's that old saying, when you live there, you kind of take it for granted. And I
Mhm.
lived in New York City for 9 years, and you know, I never did the things that tourists do. Well, now I have a son, and he and I still have all my friends in New York, so we go back quite a bit and hang
Mhm.
out. And every time I take my son, he wants to do all these tourist things. So
Yeah.
it's like all the things that I never
Mhm.
did when I lived there, I'm doing now. And it's
Yeah.
really spectacular because
Mhm.
you make all of these wonderful discoveries about a city you used to live 9 years in that you never
Mhm.
really thought about or did because you were just there. You just
Yeah.
took it
Yeah,
for
exactly.
granted. Yeah, it's interesting. All right, so let's look at groceries. So our groceries are expensive pretty much everywhere. So you're saying right now that groceries are a little bit more expensive, you're finding, or those
Um,
costs are more in Albania than France, or
No, so I think so. If we distinguish between produce and groceries,
okay.
so produce in Albania really, really affordable. Seasonal, if you're shopping seasonally, it's mind blowing how inexpensive you can prices can be on seasonal fruit, especially in vegetables.
Hmm.
In France, I would say there's just sort of there's fare, and there's a variety. You can get sort of the basic inexpensive, and then there's a lot of organic, and then they always indicate which country it's from. So if you'll speak to a French person, they'll say all the stuff from Spain is no good, and um, but you can choose. You get to choose. So there's a full range of quite affordable to kind of astronomical, depending on the quality you want to pay for
Hmm.
in fresh produce, produce, cheese, and all that stuff. At the grocery store, same thing. But I've found that groceries in the grocery store, you can get most things at a very fair price, certainly cheaper than Albania. So just your basic stuff, like tuna and mayonnaise and spaghetti sauce and pastas and basic things, you can pretty much always get something at a really good price, and then it goes up from there. There's a lot of different quality levels
Hmm.
you can choose from, and depending on the grocery store too. Some grocery stores have some really high end products, which is nice, especially for gifts, or if you're going to someone's house for dinner, or something special. But
Hmm.
I can afford to. I eat well and simply,
Hmm.
um, and I don't feel like I'm paying too much for it.
Hmm. How much do you think you budget per month for your groceries?
No more than 200 euros.
Okay. So
That's
that's
no meat. I'm not really buying meat.
okay.
I'm not vegetarian, but I do prioritize vegetables and over meat. Um, so I'll eat egg. That includes eggs and dairy, and
Hmm.
occasionally fish, but no meat really.
Does that include wine?
Yeah, I would include wine. I go for the my budget is €3 bottle of wine. If I'm going to someone's house, I might go up to five. But no, I buy usually a €3 bottle of
And the 3 euro bottle of wine is, and the $5 or the 5 euro bottle of wines are fantastic.
wine. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't had a bad bottle yet.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, and then eating out. So you said that there's some restaurants, cafes where you could walk, they're nearby.
Mhm.
For just a local, restaurant, not a fancy restaurant, but your local, common, typical, where you get a lunch or a meal. What are you going to pay for a meal there?
Well, I don't eat out a lot,
Okay.
and Arles is a very, very touristy town. So possibly prices are a little more than they need to be.
Okay.
But even so, and often lunch is the big meal here.
Hmm.
So if you look at the price of a lunch, a big lunch, you can get something for 15, €18 quite easily.
Yeah.
And it's important to factor in that there's no tax, there's no tip. That's
Right.
including everything. Yeah, that's including the tax that's built in. So I think it's pretty comparable, at least to Canada, and I think the US pricing.
Hmm.
And again, it's a big meal. And that
Hmm.
might even be a couple courses. Like they'll often have a formule, which is, maybe a main and a dessert, or a main and a coffee, or an entree, the different deals you can get at lunch usually.
Okay.
And I mean, you can go right up to, 23, €28. Um,
Sure.
but
How
you
many?
can get stuff for 15, €18, a really good filling lunch.
Hmm. How many
Yeah,
times would you say you eat out per month?
almost never.
N-
So it's only really if I go out with friends. So maybe if you averaged it out, maybe once a month for a
Okay.
full meal. I mean, I go out for coffees, maybe a crepe and a coffee, but I don't go out for meals very often at all.
Okay. How much is a crepe and a coffee?
Maybe €7.
Okay. And how
Yeah.
often you do that?
The friend I used to go with is now in Spain, so I'm not doing it. But let's say once a month when she was around. Yeah.
Okay. Great information. And then getting around Arles, do they
Mhm.
have a public transportation? Do they have any ride share like Uber or public buses? What do people do to get around there?
So in the center, as I said, it's pedestrian zone, but even in the center, there are little, they're sort of like tuk-tuks, I guess, the bicycles with little carts.
Hmm.
Those are allowed in the center.
Okay.
They're so you can take them from the train station to the center. It's not too expensive. And then there are cabs, which cabs are extremely expensive in France. There is Uber and there is Bolt, which is a
Hmm.
similar um, company. I've taken Bolt when I came back from Canada last trip. I was 8 hours delayed, so I was 25 hours traveling. So I'm like, I'm not taking the train. I'm getting in a Bolt. So I took a Bolt from Marseille to here, and it was quite reasonable at, I think it was 82 euros. It's about an
Hmm.
hour.
Okay.
Um, by cab, that would probably be triple that. Um, but it's available. And then in Arles, there are buses. There
Hmm.
are multiple bus lines going out of the city to neighboring cities, and they're different companies because they're going to different departments or states or provinces. So it gets a little, yeah, it takes a while to sort of sort that out, but there's lots of buses to nearby towns.
Hmm.
And there's buses for these outskirts of Arles.
Hmm. Does Arles have a train station? Do you have access
Yes,
to the train? It
yes.
does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, and is the train pretty much if you wanted to jump on a train and go to a town nearby or even Paris, is it pretty
Yep.
affordable to do?
Um, yeah, I view it as affordable. But that's because I mean, in Canada, the train is not affordable,
Yeah.
and not very so. But it can I could see that. Um, I mean, it adds up. It's not something you'd want to do every day.
Hmm.
It would start to really add up. But I would say yes, it's affordable, and especially there are different discount packages,
Hmm.
and so I've taken advantage of a couple of those, which save you like 30% in one case,
Hmm.
um, and if you book in advance, you can like you look in the app and you can get different pricing for your trains. So you can do it on a budget or you
Hmm.
can pay a lot. So it just depends how you
And how
plan.
much roughly would it cost to travel to a town from where you're at by train or bus?
To Marseille, it is 20 euros one way. With a discount is 13 or
Okay.
14. It's
Okay.
about an hour away from here. To nearby Nîmes, it's just about 20 minutes by train. It's 10 euros. It's been a while. 10 euros at my discount are like 13 or 14 one way regular. There's
Okay.
also a bus to Nîmes. The bus is like a euro 50. Um,
Hmm.
so it sort of depends.
So the
I
buses are a lot cheaper, it sounds like.
If you can find a bus, it's very, very inexpensive. But there's not always buses to every town. Even if they're quite close, there might not be a bus. It's
How
sort
far are you from Paris?
of on high-speed train direct would be about, I think it's almost 3 hours. And
Okay.
then if you end up changing trains, it might be up to five.
Okay.
Uh, so not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. And do you ever go up there and what would a round trip ticket cost to get to Paris and back?
I went in June. I had a discount card. So I think I paid uh, 59 euros one way and then I think it was 77 return. I
Hmm.
mean, it just depends when you book it and what's available. And sometimes I get the discount and sometimes I don't because there's multiple train lines. It's very, I haven't really worked it out, but so it depends what you book. But
Hmm.
the absolute minimum to get to and from Paris, I think you're looking at least 120 euros.
Okay.
But it can also be 400 euros. Like if you're booking last minute, you'll see prices, 175 euros one way.
And that's on a
So
train.
It's a train.
If you
Yeah.
do the bus, would it be less expensive to Paris and back?
It would probably be about 13 hours
Oh,
because it's
okay.
going to stop in a bunch of places. I believe I looked at it and just and yeah, I don't think it would be really a great option.
It's fun when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, and I've done it,
Yeah.
out of necessity, not to Paris, but I've, opted for the bus sometimes, and it's not easy, no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The next thing on our list is entertainment. What do people do for fun in Arles?
Arles always has some kind of festival or um, traditional. There's always something going on. There's a international photography ex, festival that runs from July to the beginning of October. It's just finishing up now, which is world renowned. It's been running, I think, for 50
Oh,
years.
wow.
I didn't know about it. I got here and it was in the middle of it, and it was like, holy. And for residents of Arles, it's free. So a lot of French cities have, depending which one you're in, have different things that are free for residents. So in
Hmm.
Arles, it's a couple of the museums and this festival. In Montpellier, for example, transportation is free, like
Hmm.
bus system. And so people that do move to France, I mean, by all means, look into what's available for residents for free. And I was recently in Portugal and traveling with a Portuguese friend of mine, and he found out that the museums, national museums, are free for him because he's a has a Portuguese tax number. So a lot of countries have things for residents that encourage the arts and you know
Hmm. All
and
right.
encourage participation.
Are there many
So
outdoor parks or do people do any hiking? Are there things like that
yeah,
there?
yeah. There's a lot of hiking. Actually, I'm was surprised in Europe. As a Canadian, we kind of think it's our thing, but there's a lot of hiking in Europe. They're very passionate about outdoor activities. So it's a matter of finding your groups. I've gone a couple of times with groups of friends. And there's a group in Arles that's kind of a language group. It's not exactly expats. It's sort of a come speaking whatever language you want. So it's a lot of
Hmm.
French, English, there's Spanish, and there's some other languages. And we actually have a book club as well. So we've gone hiking a couple of times.
Nice.
With, yeah. Yeah.
Now, your book club, do you have to read in French or do you read in English?
So far, it's fairly young. We've tried to pick an author from a different country each time. So we picked a French author first, then we did an Irish author, a Japanese author, and now we're doing a Spanish author.
Oh,
And the deal is you can read it in whatever language you want.
okay.
Um, the discussions are a mix of English and French, depending
Hmm.
who comes. Um, and yeah, so I actually read my first book in French for that book club. I'm not, I was pretty happy by the end of the book. I could mostly understand what happened in the book,
Yeah.
um, but it gave me some confidence that I could, improve, that my French was good enough that I could get the gist. So I've
Yeah.
continued in French. Um, yeah,
Well, that's exciting.
yeah.
That's awesome. Do you pretty much walk everywhere, Karen, or did you buy a vehicle or?
No, no, I never want to. If I never drive again, I'm perfectly happy.
Okay. So you're really a walker. Do you have a bike? Do you ever?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Okay. And the last thing we cover is healthcare. And that was one of the reasons you felt like you needed to leave Albania.
Mhm.
Share what the healthcare is like in France and how the viewers can access it if they choose to live there or retire there.
So for your visa, you'll need to pay for 1 year upfront of private health care.
Hmm.
That's part of the visa conditions. Once you're here, after 3 months, you can apply for to be part of the national system. And basically, you need to prove that you live here. So you need to show, I showed my internet by 3 months of internet bills. You have to show that you've been here for 3 consecutive months and you're paying bills and so then you start that process. And so I got here in June, and I think I had my card in by November. Um, so then when I did my renewal of my visa, I didn't need to then buy that supplementary health insurance. I'm covered by the free national system.
Hmm.
Many people, both French and everybody, buy a top-up insurance called a mutuelle. I haven't done that yet. I sort of have one that's from Canada that will cover some things, so I haven't spent that money, but it's pretty normal. But even if you don't have a carte vitale, the health card, and you even if you have no health insurance, you just walk, something happens, you go to a hospital, or you can access a hospital, you can access a clinic, and it's not going to be, especially if you're just going to a clinic, it's not going to be expensive. A
Hmm.
doctor visit is 30 euros
Okay.
to just talk to a doctor with no health card. No, you're nobody. You just go in and talk. Because I did that before I had my card. I needed to talk to a doctor, and it's not everywhere. There's a clinic in Arles that's just a public clinic, and I went there and I talked to a doctor, and it was 30 euros and solved the problem. And
Hmm.
then I got my health card, and then you can access more doctors and more services once you have the card, the
Okay.
number. Yeah.
So you virtually don't pay anything per month for this healthcare.
No, I'm paying Canada, my Canadian health insurance,
Okay.
at the moment. Eventually, if I manage to achieve French permanent residency, I'll cancel it. But I'm not comfortable canceling it yet, until I have, a real residency somewhere outside of Canada.
So you're actually, because Canada also offers a national healthcare system. So are you paying for like a private insurance plan in Canada?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
From when I was a federal employee, it was paid for, and now as a retiree, I pay for it. And it covers, like glasses and physio or anything like that you need.
Okay. And you mentioned that you can buy some kind of mutual buy up insurance in France as well, which you haven't done yet. Have you checked the
No.
prices on what that would cost?
Yeah. So the absolute bottom would be about 45 euros. And again, I got quotes for my age. So a younger person, it's probably not going to be that much, but say 45 euros, but you can go right up to, 200 euros.
Hmm.
So it's
Okay.
depending on age, depending what you want, it's,
That's still very, very affordable when you compare it to the US and what people pay in the US.
yeah.
Um, okay. All right. Great information, Karen. So, out of all these years you've been living now, you've lived in Albania, you're in France, you've learned a lot. For all the viewers that are watching, for everybody, is there anything that you can think of that they should know that was a surprise to you and a shock to you when you moved abroad that they need to know or they should know?
Culture shock is a thing.
Okay.
I don't like the word culture shock. I don't think it's the right phrasing. I call it adaptation burnout.
Hmm. Okay.
I experienced it in Albania, and I experienced it in France as well. It's pretty much, for me, it seems to be my first 3 months are my tough time.
Hmm.
Um, but then when you come to accept it, then can move out of it. But because everything is new,
Hmm.
you can't blink without learning something new. When you come to a new country, from the labels on the toothpaste to where you're going to buy, anything, and things are in different places. So,
Hmm.
you're used to going to a supermarket or department store and getting everything. Well, that's not how it's going to be anywhere else. So the constant learning, the constant adaptation, the constant redirecting priorities, budgets, money, working out all these thousands of problems is very wearing.
Hmm.
It's fun too and interesting, but it is tiring. So I would encourage people to just be gentle on themselves the first three
Hmm.
months. And also, while I think it's absolutely crucial to learn the language wherever you're going, um, I think it's better to sort of let it slide in those first 3 months. So do some language if if you're going to move to Italy, do some language learning before you leave. Get there, acclimate, and then maybe 6 months in, then really dive into the language, immersing yourself and putting a little more pressure, if you will, on yourself to learn the language. Because in those first 3 months, you're just too tired. Like psychologically, there's a lot going on.
Hmm. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great information, Karen. Well, Karen Espig, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share all of this wonderful information about your journey, about Albania and now Arles, France, living there. You're living the dream that many are
Mhm.
considering, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure to share.